Yeah, because the Sangha is supposed to be a community to start with.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge. That's
It's
maybe
a
why
challenge.
also many don't stay monastics anymore.
Yeah. And so one of the questions is sort of like, I think figuring out collectively, like, how can we do this and what's really important and how can we bring monastic life to the West in a way that's kind of meeting the conditions and the culture of this place, you know? And
Well, since people are living alone anyway, and they're supposed by being monastic not to have too many ties to this or that place or particular activity unless there's a very specific need for one's teacher. But the idea, if they could regroup a little bit and have some kind of community, because when there are more than 5, it makes a Sangha.
Yeah.
So even it's small, but that would be more like community life, and that's what the Sangha is supposed to be. So why are they living alone? Because somehow, probably, it's also material contingencies, because they have a place, I guess, to stay, that they either can afford or doesn't cost them anything. But it's possible that if they were getting together, they could find such a place where they could live together and have a more community life. So it would be desirable, of course. Now, whether it's feasible, and there is not too much asking, considering the constraint of living in the West, material, financial, everything. I don't know, but except in the East, the monastic who live alone is really because they are in retreat somewhere. Or very elderly monks or nuns, they live with their family. But otherwise, they live in monastery, which has anything from 20 to 10,000.
Wow.
So, like in La Ronga, there's 10,000 nuns. So they stay together. So that's quite a pretty big community. And we have one in Bhutan that's considered small, where there's 150 nuns. There are some have 60, some have 100. So that's a real community. So in Tibet, it's like that. Nepal also, Bhutan also. Otherwise, the alternative is wandering monks and nuns, which are like hermits or retreatants. But besides that, they are not supposed to, are not even supposed to. I myself don't abide by this rule, but it's not the main rule that you break your vow, but you are basically not supposed to spend more than 3 nights in the layperson's home. So we are breaking that vows all the time. So it's condition of the world. But I think, there have been a few attempts to regroup communities. There was one in south of France, still going on. There was this thing in Gompo Abbey. I don't know what happens, but that will be desirable for sure. And maybe also better when they get old to look after each other, have younger one look after the elders. So ideally, that's what should be. So I think if we keep it as a goal, because it's not going to happen just like that. We have to have a kind of vision to do that. So especially if we could request our teachers to help. Maybe when they have centers, they could dedicate a piece of land. There are already, some benefactors who do help for building temples and making statues. They could do something for having a basic, simple accommodations for this community. So if there is a sort of aim at doing that, I'm sure it can be accomplished. If we just everyone fends for themselves, then it's not going to happen by itself.
One thing I wanted to hear from you, in having these conversations, I've talked to a lot of monastics who just struggle, and they struggle with monastic life, and there's a lot of people who are like, I'm not sure if I even want to do this anymore. I've had dear friends disrobe. And I want to hear from you, like, something positive about monastic life. Like, what
it's
has
wonderful
been a
if
joy for you?
I think that's also the strength of the community. If you are left on your own, in an environment, everything goes against that. Of course, now people are more used to see monastics. Yes, they've seen His Holiness, they know about it. But in the past, they thought you are strange, sort of being, you are half human being because you cut yourself from so many things in life. So they didn't have a very positive opinion in the West of monastics. The useless guys not working and eating at the expense of others.
Yeah.
So sort of parasites.
Yeah.
While in the East, people are so proud to help monastic to survive. In Bhutan, so many people told me, if you go on retreat, I will provide all the food, and then many of the donations that support monasteries is from locals. At least in our monastery, more than 40% is the local community who they are very happy and honored to help the community. So there's the whole culture, and also because they live together, and according to one of the basic, the idea of monastic rules are like, like you have on the balcony, there is a railing to prevent you falling off. So there are safeguards to keep the vow, and that's part of the community. But if you are left on your own, then the whole world is geared against keeping this kind of vows.
Yeah.
I mean, advertisement, what you see on TV. So, and then people you meet, they are themselves in worldly life, they make money, they have a family, they have companions and all that. So it's like an upstream struggle. You don't feel supported, while in the place where monastic are valued, where they can live their ideal, and there's a supportive community from outside, and also a supportive community within the monastic community itself. So then it's definitely not the same sort of challenge.
Yeah.
And also because it's in the culture, first of all, many also young monastic, they leave when they become adult and before taking full vows. But the fact that they start quite early, it may seem funny for Westerners that at 10 years old you go as a novice in the monastery, but many wants to do that, even children. They're not just thrown them by their parents, but they want to do that rather than go to school. But more than half they leave before 20 years old. So they make up their mind before their adult life, before actually engaging in a professional and all that. So those who stay, they're much more likely to stay, although some also leave.
Yeah.
And there's quite few leaves. We have plenty of monks now who are in New York washing dishes or driving cars. So it's not exceptional. And the former 16 Karmapa used to say, if 1 out of 10 become really good, that's quite nice. So, like that. So I think in the West, normally people are more advanced in age when they become monks, that they are in their 20s or their 30s or more. So then they should think carefully, because you don't have to be a monk to practice the path, or a nun. So there's reasons why did you do that. It's kind of freedom from worldly affairs and worldly preoccupations. So if you see that as a freedom, then you are more likely to remain. If you see that as a deprivation of something else, then you will probably not last very long. If you think that you are fettering yourself, diminishing yourself, then it's not healthy. If you think, wow, I'm a bird flying out of the cage, then you are more likely, if you keep on appreciating that freedom, that now nothing but the Dharma matters to you, if that you appreciate that, then why should you change and go back to this, worldly activities, preoccupation, ups and downs, and a lot of torments, unnecessary. So if you don't appreciate the freedom that it gives, opportunity that it gives, then of course this would not last. It's simply you didn't recognize or didn't appreciate, or you are tempted by something else. So I think also make up one mind clearly before is a good thing. Instead of, you should not rush, certainly. At the same time, the Buddha said even you take vows for one day, wearing the monastic robes is like the victory banners of the Buddha's teaching. So it's an immense merit. So in Thailand they have temporary vows, which probably might be interesting formula for the West, for Theravada, because then when they don't feel they're breaking something, they just take it for some time. Tibetan Buddhism, of course, is not like that. There's no time limitation. But then you should better think carefully. Nobody forces you to become monk or nun. So if you do it, just make sure that you feel it as a very strong, positive, liberating steps, and not because you have some problems and you want to get rid of it then you regret it because you feel caught into something.
Yeah.
Also, if you give it up, then what? You know, you have been doing it for a while, and better than playing poker.
You've already brought up this idea in the West of like being a parasite.
Well, you know, my mother, who is a nun, says that the Western civilization is centrifuge, consumption. You go and buy things and gather things towards you. You know, it's always like that, getting things. If you don't get things, then you're a failure.
Yeah.
So Eastern culture are the opposite. I don't know in English if it was centripede. It's like it spins toward the outside.
Maybe
well, so that was. So one is
going
in the West is like this.
Yeah.
You bring things to you, consumption, increasing your wealth, better house, bigger house. In the East is going like that.
Yeah, getting.
I know an old nun. The moment she gets some money, she thinks, "Oh, what I'm going to do? Offer lamps, offering to Lama." So it's offering civilization.
Yeah.
And that's why this is not a problem, because people feel greatly honored to support the monastics. Nobody feels their paradise except a few, maybe brainwashed, new sort of fashion people. But everywhere, it's like they think it's a very great merit. And it's not that they have been sort of old-fashioned brainwashed. They really think it.
Yeah.
And some of them say, you know, we can't do that ourselves. We don't have the, you know, determination, or we already have 5 kids and they cannot just. But it's wonderful you are doing it. We're supporting you. And even the monks who leave the monastery, usually because they live in good terms, even they are in New York, they keep supporting the monastery because they feel that's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's a tradition in China. Always kings or emperor were patroning monasteries. So in the Buddhist country like Bhutan and some part of Nepal and all that, the community is most happy to support. It's very different. And these monks are very much like respected, not seen as. Well, here, of course, it's not our culture. That's why this one is the Lama said maybe better keep your own tradition, except a few exceptions where you are really convinced that Buddhism is what suits you.
Yeah.
So then you can do. But he said it's always a little bit between 2 chairs.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, that's why I live personally in the East, but not everyone can do that.
Yeah.
Because there is no problem. I mean,
you know, one of the questions that comes up for what monastics I've talked to is, since we're in this culture, is it that we should, because of all this sort of deep-rooted psychology we have about bringing in and, you know, supporting yourself,
yes.
Should monastics just do that? Like try and work, a lot of monastics work and support themselves, or is it like important to try and keep this integrity of
well, you know, in some way you could, if really you are convinced that monastic path is the right path for you and it's a virtuous path and it's the only way to work. No, I know from 2 brothers who are monks ordained by Trushik Rinpoche, who was very strict about the Vinaya. And they remained monk 30 years. They live together in a small flat, they work in factories, they remain monks till the end of their life, and they were very pure monks. But in the daytime they were going to the factory, and every 2 years they come to Nepal and meet Trushik Rinpoche, make some offerings. So, you know, it was kind of nice to see them, you know, coming home and putting back their dress and doing practice. So it works well. I think the reason why we generally don't encourage that is because people do not keep that. If they really do that sort of anonymously and being monk at home, but being really pure monks or nuns, that will be fine. But the problem is by doing that, usually they veer away.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why working in a normal environment and being a nun or a monk is not easy, because you get sidetracked and usually fall into not being a nun or a monk anymore.
Yeah.
But if you're really to abide by the precepts, normally you should not dress as layman, but let's admit that it's okay if you really have to keep the spirit. But it's very challenging. You really have to have a strong stability and confidence and be absolutely clear in your mind. That is I guess it's okay. I mean, like Krishnamurti would definitely have told them something if he thought that was improper.
Yeah.
So, and they were very nice. I don't know what happens if they're still alive, but
So what does it mean to keep the spirit to you of being a
Well,
monastic in your
you
heart?
actually went from home to homelessness. That means
Yeah.
you are not. You observe the vows of monastic vow. There are quite many,
Yeah.
many enough that you know what it is.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
the
do,
spirit
and-
is
but
to
the
no, but the
core,
spirit
like,
means
you
to
know,
be
yeah.
really keen in observing the vows.
Yeah.
So that's the spirit, because
That's
there's the monks is about behavior, bodhicitta is about intention, and pure vision is about like Vajrayana, but monastic rules is about conduct.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I mean, of course, the spirit of renunciation, but basically it's observing a conduct
Yeah.
with the joy of doing so. That's the motivation, and seeing the benefit of it. But it's basically about being happy to observe the rules. If you're happy to observe the rule, then it will be fine.
Yeah.
But that's the spirit of monastic vows,
Yeah.
because it's not about bodhisattva ideal or Vajrayana, seeing everything as pure, all phenomena as pure, which is the mind. There is to value being eager and joyful in keeping the discipline. And if you are not, then it's not going to last. Of course, why should it last? You cannot force yourself all life long. So unless you're happy to do so, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And if you're happy to do so, it will work even if you go in the factory all day long, because you're not interested in doing other things that what is following the vows.
Yeah.
So then you keep them. But it's certainly more challenging for the mind to be willing to keep the vows if you are constantly distracted by something else. You need a very steady mind. So those two brothers in Switzerland going to the factory for 30 years, they had extremely steady mind. For them it was clear. They were monk, they were stay monk, and they didn't even consider alternatives.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Most welcome.
Yeah, it's very helpful.
Good.